Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 6 articles for you in this episode, and the URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. Make sure that we have some audio here, and then I'll jump right into it. Nothing like getting into the video and then finding out that you don't have any audio. That looks like we got it going here, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on into it. The first one that I have here is off of gatewaypundit.com. It says, this is what Trump was talking about. Muslim migrants grope girls, slap mothers with children. This, if you want to pull it up and take a look at it. It says, on Saturday, President Trump held a rally in Florida in front of thousands of supporters. President Trump referenced the violence in Sweden due to the tremendous influx of refugees. Immediately attacked President Trump for suggesting there is a refugee problem in Sweden. They claimed he was making it all up. Here's what President Trump was talking about. Muslim refugee slaps and spits on a young woman with children. And there is video of that here for you to see. To scroll down. Or at least, yeah, there's video and there's pictures and all that. It says Moroccan immigrant children grope girls on the train. And up here it says Muslim tries to cut a Swedish woman in line. I urinate on people like you, and effing whore is what he says. So, you know, hey, that sounds like it's made up to you. The next one we have here is off the Liberty Riders. It's not like we haven't already had that kind of stuff go on here in this country. This one's off of Liberty Riders News. It says, oh my God, Obama appointees at the Pentagon do the unthinkable to General Mattis. Trump is furious. Politics can get dirty. We all know that. But a line is crossed when politics puts the lives of our military at stake. It was recently discovered that Obama's appointees in the Pentagon are blocking General Mattis from giving our military men and women the help they deserve, or try this again. Well, they deserve it, but the article says the help they desperately need to fight in combat and stay alive. Here's a quote. Holdovers from the Obama administration and the Pentagon are hampering efforts to fix the military's major readiness problem, leaving Secretary of Defense James Mattis alone in his efforts to properly equip U.S. forces, according to the chairman of the House Committee on Armed Services. Have no shame. Preventing our Secretary of Defense from rebuilding our military doesn't just put our troops in danger, it pushes all American lives in danger. Military readiness is vital because declines in our ability to be on guard for an attack signals to the rest of the world that the United States is not prepared to defend itself. Hostile nations will be more likely to lash out against America, inevitably leading us into a war. Committee of Armed Services, Mac Thornberry, said that Mattis can't do this alone, and the U.S. has a moral obligation to support the troops. I think it is wrong and immoral to ask men and women to go carry out a military mission for which they are not fully equipped and fully trained and fully supported, said Thornberry. And whatever that is, a counterterrorism operation or a freedom of navigation operation in the South China Sea or whatever, if you ask somebody to go out there and risk their lives, you darn well better give them the best and fully support them. President Trump takes the well-being of our military service members very seriously. Democrats acting childish and blocking all his cabinet picks is one thing, but putting American lives in danger is a whole different story. These Obama appointees should be thrown in jail for what they are doing. Our military deserves better than this. The next article is off the Conservative Tribune. It says Obama's DHS chief used private unsecured email server to do official business. Gee, where have we heard that before? It says, you may have thought that following the Just calm down here. Okay. You may have thought that following the electoral defeat of Democrat presidential nominee Hillary Clinton and the change in administration from former President Barack Obama to President Donald Trump, you would no longer read stories pertaining to the use of unsecured private email servers to conduct official government business. You'd think. Alas, you would have been wrong. As government watchdog group Judicial Watch just including a link to a 216-page document containing numerous messages to or from former Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson, as well as 3 other that were sent through private unsecured web-based email accounts. The documents were produced in response to a May 2016 Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed against DHS after the agency had ignored previous Freedom of Information Act request filed in December of 2015, which had sought any emails related to official government business sent or received by Johnson and 3 other officials on a non-government email address. We're waiting for the hamster. It says those 3 officials were named as Deputy Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, Chief of Staff Christian Marone, and General Counsel Steve Bunnell, as well as Johnson, have been found to have conducted official business using non-official email accounts. Some highlights of the released emails include one from the Kuwaiti ambassador to Johnson that sought to arrange a meeting between Johnson and Kuwaiti's interior minister. That email proceeded to discuss the minister's meetings with the heads of the CIA, FBI, and director of the National Intelligence. A similar message was also received by Johnson, ambassador to Saudi Arabia, that discussed an upcoming meeting with the Saudi's interior minister. A message between Marone and an unknown individual discussed sensitive information regarding the earnings of Lockheed Martin and joint efforts between Lockheed Martin and Boeing related to the launch of space vehicles and related infrastructure issues. Laughably, Johnson sent out a progress report speech over his unsecured private email account that discussed the department's strides in cybersecurity. Can't make this stuff up. Even more hilarious, though a bit frightening, is evidence that Johnson's name and account were spoofed as part of a phishing scam seeking personal information from people gullible enough to believe that they get a piece of an abandoned fund worth US dollars 4.5 million in West Africa. Don't we all get that kind of stuff? Breitbart noted that some of the emails were heavily redacted, proving that they contained sensitive classified information not fit to be released publicly or stored on private unsecured email server for that matter. It's ironic and disconcerting that Secretary Johnson and his aides touted Homeland Security's great strides in cybersecurity while using secured private web-based email accounts had officially prohibited, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said in a news release, according to Newsmax. The fact that the documents found in these email accounts were so heavily redacted and that Johnson's name and email account were spoofed in a phishing scam is indicative of just how lax communication security was inside Homeland Security during the Obama administration, he added. Given that we now know of the prevalence of the use of unsecured private email servers to conduct official government business in the Obama administration, it is almost a certainty that we will be seeing more reports like this as their terribly lax communication security is increasing exposed to the public. Article that I have for you. Well, looks like I got to reload that one. Let's get it reloaded here. It's off of westernjournalism.com. And it has to do with Senate votes to rescind Obama's last-minute gun control regulations. Senate voted Wednesday to rescind one of the final rules implemented by the Obama administration, which was gun control measure. The Obama rule required the Social Security Administration to report anyone who requires third-party assistance to manage his or her Social Security benefits to be placed on the National Criminal Background Check System. Anyone on that list cannot buy a gun. HJ Resolution 40, rolling back the rule, passed mostly along party lines, 57-43, with all Republicans and a handful of red state Democrat senators voting for and the remaining Democrats voting against it. The resolution passed in the House earlier this month in a similar party line vote, 235 to 180. First considered after the 2012 Newtown, Connecticut shooting in Washington Examiner, the Washington Examiner reported. Really stigmatizes people with disabilities. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, said this week during a debate, if the regulation is not repealed, agency to very unfairly deprive Social Security recipients of their Second Amendment rights. This is essentially a national gun ban list, he added. Grassley, who authored the joint resolution repealing the rule, added in a release Wednesday more than 20 disability and civil rights groups as diverse as the ACLU and the NRA support the move. That the Social Security Administration rule unfairly automatically categorizes Americans as mentally defective for entry on the simply because they have been deemed not capable of managing their Social Security benefits. Flawed regulation risks erroneously adding tens of thousands of names to the federal gun ban list each year, Grassley explained. Democrats counted that the Obama regulation gives those who feel they have been unfairly placed on NICS the anyone who thinks that they have been unfairly affected can appeal, and the likelihood is substantial that they are going to win, said Biden, Democrat of Oregon. The NRA praised the passage of the resolution repealing the Obama regulation. Today's Senate vote was the next step in rolling back some of the egregious government overreach that characterized the Obama era, said Chris W. Cox, executive director of the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action. Congress is reversing the backdoor gun grab that stripped law-abiding Americans of their right without due process. In the stunning victory for the pro-gun community, the first bill to overturn an Obama anti-gun measure is now headed desk, said Larry Pratt, executive director emeritus of Gun Owners of America. I'm going to comment on something here. You know, that one goober says that, let's say, Ron Wyden, a Democrat of Oregon, says that they can appeal. It can be appealed. You know, I'm glad that, it's not a moot point at this. For crying out loud, how out of touch is he? Social Security people, you know, that's fixed income. It costs money to do these appeals. Don't have money to be in court fighting all this foolishness that these idiots in Congress get well paid for putting up against the American people. Somebody like him by the nape of the neck and shake him. Maybe I could get a couple brain cells to rub together. Next one here is off of BizPac Review. It says, Trump, 1 hour of negotiation saved $1 billion on Air Force One. President Donald Trump purportedly knocked $1 billion off the price tag of the new Air Force One planes manufactured by Boeing. He told an audience at a campaign rally in Florida. Trump told the audience Saturday that he only spent an hour or so directly negotiating with Boeing. The new Air Force One Boeing 747 would not be delivered to the U.S. Air Force until 2024 and originally slated to cost approximately $4 billion. We're going to get it done for less than that, and we're committed to working together to make sure that happens. Reporters during the presidential transition, he continued that he gave Trump a personal commitment to cut costs on the project. Trump also highlighted his cost-cutting maneuvers with respect to the Lockheed Martin F-35 program. We cut approximately $600 million off the F-35 fighter, and that only amounts to 90 planes out of close to 3,000 planes, Trump told a White House audience January the 30th. At the rally, the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe personally thanked him for lowering the cost of the F-35, which is also being purchased by U.S. allies. Article I have in this episode is off of Western Journalism. It says, in response to Trump, IRS takes a swing at key provision of Obamacare. President Trump issued an executive order on his first day in office requiring federal agencies to minimize the economic and regulatory burdens of the Affordable Health Care Act. The Revenue Service has announced it will comply with that order by, in essence, weakening one of the key mandates of Obamacare, the requirement that individuals purchase health care coverage. The IRS says it will not go forward with plans to reject 1040 tax forms from taxpayers who fail to provide verification of health insurance coverage. Effective with the 2016 tax returns, the IRS was to reject so-called silent returns, the returns on which the taxpayer did not show proof they had appropriate health care coverage during the year. The recent executive order directed federal agencies to exercise authority and discretion available to them to reduce potential burden, the IRS said in a statement to Reason magazine. Consistent with that, the IRS has decided to make changes that would continue to allow electronic and paper returns to be accepted for processing and assistance where a taxpayer doesn't indicate their coverage status. Processing silent returns means the taxpayer returns are not systematically rejected, allowing them to be processed and minimizing the burden on taxpayers, including those expecting a refund, the statement continued. The individual mandate requires that taxpayers purchase health coverage for their family or pay shared responsibility payment. The penalty for 2016 could be as high as $695 for adults and $395 for children younger than 18 years of age, with a cap of $2,085 for a family. Not having health insurance was deemed a tax penalty, thus the IRS was in charge of collecting the tax. With the new IRS procedure in place, taxpayers can decide whether or not to disclose their health coverage status on their tax returns. If someone indicates they did not have the required insurance, they can still be liable for the penalty. That's all I have in this episode. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.